Good morning folks, welcome to Walking with Watches. How did Rolex become so uncool? Well, we're going to attempt to answer that question. 4 reasons. Let's get into it, shall we? Let's go. Here on Walking with Watches, it's a collector's YouTuber channel run by me, just an honest, one-of-the-mill, bog-standard watch collector. We do all sorts of things, unboxings, product reviews, openings, reactions, opinion pieces like this, all sorts of things. If you're into your watches, consider giving us a follow. And let's be honest, with backgrounds like this, it's a little bit more interesting than your bog-standard home office, home studio, isn't it? Anyway, let's get on with it, shall we? Reason number 1, let's go. I think the first reason, which is contributing to the decline in cool of Rolex, is I think there is a cost of living crisis going on around the world, and where a lot of people are feeling the squeeze. And for some people, the price rises, the secondary values of Rolexes don't seem to offer the same value that perhaps they once did, say 5 or 10 years ago. When you sort of trade this off with a little bit of luxury fatigue, as it were, the way things got so blown up in the pandemic, and we'll talk about that in a minute, because I think that's a reason as well. The brand has just sort of suffered in the eyes of the collectors who still want to be buying and selling watches, but actually when there's a cost of living crisis going on, investing, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20,000 pounds in a watch doesn't seem quite so reasonable, particularly when you've got brands like Christopher Ward, actually what I'm wearing now, Amigas, Grand Seiko, etc., that are offering 70% of the feel for, you know, a fraction of the price. So I think that's a big factor. I think there has been a sort of a drop off in what people consider worth their money in the luxury marketplace. I think the luxury marketplace has changed generally as we go through cost of living crisis, wars internationally, all that sort of stuff. So a bit of a serious reason to kick the list off with, but you know, I think it's there. Oh, actually, whilst I've got you, this is a small little YouTube channel, and if you would be so kind as to drop me a subscribe, your chance to support a small creator. And we're so close to 1,000 subscribers. As of today, I think we're less than 10. You know, to hit that milestone would be amazing. It would mean so much. So if you do have it within you, if you would like to just hit that subscribe button, I would be tremendously grateful. Honestly, I really would. Cheers. Number 2. Now, I think a big reason is the availability and the issues of buying Rolexes. AD games, waiting lists, resentment towards the grey market and the flippers and all that sort of stuff. Look, these sorts of things have always been a factor in buying luxury goods, whether that's Hermes bags or Rolex watches, right? There is these sort of games that people are expected to play. And truth be told, that's never really gone away, but at the moment there seems to be a particularly strong sense of this isn't right, you know, like having to say, you know, going into a store with £10,000, want to buy a Submariner, and because of the, you know, the fear of the grey market, the flippers out there and all this sort of stuff, being told that you're essentially not worthy, you're not good enough, that breeds a lot of resentment. Now actually there's some quite good sort of marketing psychology behind this. If you tell people no, it makes them want it more. The problem with that, of course, is it's quite high risk, because eventually people just get resentful towards you. And I think amongst watch collectors who perhaps would be looking to buy multiple watches in a year, not just 1 or 2, I think these sorts of AD games that you're expected to play, you know, spend histories and all that sort of stuff, building a relationship, you know, since when has that been a factor relevant to spending money? You know, I think people feel a lot of that, and I think that's quite a strong thing. You know, I have an AD that I shop with, and actually I think they're pretty decent generally. So it's not something I experience personally, but look, you know, I have certainly heard stories of it, I've seen stories of it, and people have told me things about their experiences trying to buy these things. So look, I understand it. And I think when you combine the sort of rising prices, cost of living and all that sort of stuff, being told that you're not good enough to buy a watch from your AD, or that's how it feels, certainly breeds a lot of resentment. And you just think, you know what, I'm just not interested, actually. You can keep your watches, thanks. I'm fine with what I've got. Not something I feel, I mean, I love my Rolexes, but I hear it, you know. And I think it's valid, you know, I do. I don't mean to sort of put my cards on the table too much, because it's just a discussion, isn't it? But I think it's valid. I think people are justified to feel that way. I have actually come to the Ashdown Forest today which a bit unusual. I don't really live very near here, but anyway, it's besides the point. Interestingly, this was the site on which the 100-acre wood of Winnie the Pooh fame was based. And there's like a cafe and a bridge over there, like the Pooh Sticks bridge thing for kids and holiday makers and whatever, which, you know, is interesting, I suppose, as we try and find more and more elaborate ways of wasting time. There's a man talking to himself in the middle of nowhere about... Anyway, number 3. Increasing prices without a commensurate increase in availability. So you could say Rolex putting their prices up year on year is reflective of the cost of production, and they have every right to achieve maximal profits for the products they make. Fair enough. And no one's actually arguing that their business shouldn't make profit. But I do think that sequential price increases would be a lot more palatable to the market if it led to more availability. You could say, well, a Rolex Submariner costs £6,000 and there's a 2-year waiting list, but you know, we're going to increase our prices, we can build more factories, hire more staff, all that sort of stuff, and then we'll be able to sell your watch in 2 or 3 months. You'd go, do you know what? I understand it, you've got operational costs as well, fair enough. But that doesn't seem to be the way it's going. Prices are going up and up and up due to the rising popularity of watch collecting as a hobby generally, which is actually something we'll talk about in a moment. The increases in price seem unjustifiable and they seem unreasonable, and I think they annoy a lot of people. And you know, I kind of understand it. It is becoming a perfect storm of resentment, isn't it? When you look at, you know, the rising prices, AD games you have to play. You know, there's a lot of things that just make you think, you know what, your watches are good, mate, but they're not that good. Number 4, lastly, the rising popularity in itself, I think, is the reason why they're becoming uncool. Look, I think there's a little bit of this going on. I don't know whether this is entirely true, but I think there's a little bit of this going on. How many of us have discovered a band on their first album and we've been like one of the small people in the know, like we know how cool this band is, right? And we love it, love it, love it. We tell all of our sort of friends about it. It's the best band ever. We're seeing them in small bars and pubs and little gigs and all that. Then they break it, they smash onto the scene and we're like early adopters. This is cool, man. This is the best band ever. And then they go on to make 2 or 3 albums, get a bit of success. And all of a sudden, when everyone else jumps on the bandwagon, they just become a bit less cool. And I think that watch collecting, particularly during the pandemic, there was the perfect storm of crypto, no travel, a lot of people working from home, so lots of time to kill, going from not necessarily wanting to buy a Rolex to wanting to buy a Rolex. You know, we saw a lot of watch YouTube channels explode during that time period. You know, it was a sort of real boom for the industry generally. And that sort of tailed off with the cost of living and all the things we talked about already. But I do think there is an element of, because everybody else wants a Rolex, we as watch collectors and watch enthusiasts should know better, and that we do know better, and actually that there are other places to put your money. And I think to a degree, the increasing popularity has made it a bit less cool. It's just so obvious and boring, and we say all these sorts of things to our friends and ourselves, and I don't know how I feel about that as an argument, but I do think it's a contributing factor. You know, all the while that Rolexes were, you know, luxury goods and things collectors could buy and own and get in and out of quite easily, they were quite cool. None of that applies anymore, and the popularity has sort of spoiled the fun a little bit, isn't it? So let me know what you think in the comments below. Despite all of it, are you still into Rolex? Have you gone off them? Are they still the king for you? Do they still wear the crown, pun intended, or not? You know, where are you at? Anyway, this has been Walking with Watches. Nice to chat. See you soon, I'm sure. Take it easy. Peace out. All the best.